Hey guys, Waterfowler41 here, and in today's video we're going to be installing a WolfBox G900Pro dash camera in my 2023 Raptor. So first and foremost, want to send a huge shout out to WolfBox team. They did send me this kit. They also set up a coupon code for my channel, so if you use this coupon code when you're purchasing your G900Pro, you're going to get a discount on your order, but it also helps support my channel. So just wanted to be super transparent there. So we're going to be installing the G900Pro kit with a few extra additional accessories. So you can just buy the camera and it comes with everything you need to give this power to your camera for a front and rear when the truck is on. But there's some additional accessories that I think improve the capabilities of the camera and also make the install that much better. So let's get everything taken out of the box, walk through what we're going to be doing, and then we'll dive right into the install. All right, with everything out of the box, let's take a look at what comes in the kit, which is everything over here, plus all the additional accessories that I have on this side, which are going to make the install easier, and it's going to give me some additional usability and really just make the install that much better. But in the box, you get everything you need to install a front camera plus the digital mirror. So there's your camera, this is your mirror, this is your rear camera, and then you get a GPS module that it's included in the kit so you can track your location. You get an extension cable for your camera so you can run this camera to the outside of your vehicle, relatively far distances, an additional bracket just to make sure you have some additional flexibility with where you're putting that camera. This is your power supply that comes in the kit, so it plugs into a cigarette lighter. We'll get into this in a minute. And then it comes with these rubber straps. So these rubber straps are made for the camera or for the mirror itself to strap it onto your factory mirror. So if you're going to just plop this guy on top of your factory mirror, which a lot of folks do, you would use these rubber straps. There's larger ones and smaller ones depending on what you have. So this is everything that comes in the kit. Now there's a few additional things that I would recommend you pick up to make the install better, look better, and function a lot better. First and foremost, I have a big truck, so I would definitely recommend getting a longer cable for your rear camera. I'm not sure the length of the factory cable that comes in the kit is going to cut it. So this is the 33-foot long cable. This will give me the ability to run the plug from the mirror down out of the vehicle to the back of the truck. Not totally sure where I'm going to run it just yet, but I would definitely recommend getting a longer cable so you have plenty of length to work with. You can't attach these to each other, so you need to have one cable that's going to run the whole distance. Then the other thing I'd recommend is this factory bracket. You can mount this to the factory mirror with those rubber straps, but depending on your vehicle, there are factory brackets, so you can remove your factory rear view mirror, install this bracket, and then attach this little plate to the back of the mirror. That way you can just run the WolfBox mirror, which I think is going to make it look that much better. So we're going to remove our factory mirror, install this bracket, pop this guy on the back of the mirror, and then everything should look very factory with the exception of some wires, and it's a larger mirror. So this in and of itself is its own kit. This bracket up here, this is for your license plate bracket. This will give you an option to mount that rear camera above your license plate on your vehicle. Again, I haven't totally figured out which way I'm going to mount that just yet, but this gives me the flexibility if I want to use the license plate bracket if I don't find any other location. The last thing that I would recommend that truly improves the capabilities of this entire camera is the hardwire kit. And the reason I recommend this is because this will allow you to run a switched power as well as a constant power to your mirror. Why do I recommend that? Well, one of the extra bells and whistles of this camera is G-Shock monitoring. So if something hits the vehicle, it's going to put a bookmark on it on the video and record. And if you have constant power to the mirror when you're in park mode, it'll allow you to run the parking parking function. So if you park your truck at, let's say, a mall, someone hits it, and the camera is going to turn on and start recording front and rear. That way you have a bookmark of that, and you have some footage potentially to catch whoever hit your vehicle. So that's why I would recommend you get the hardwire kit. I also don't really like using cigarette lighter kits because a lot of times in these newer vehicles, the cigarette lighter just really isn't in a location that's super discreet. However, if you are going to use this, what's nice about this is it has a USB plug on the outside, so you don't necessarily kill your access to a power port on your truck or your vehicle. You still have that USB access here. So we're going to work on installing the camera in the vehicle first, and then we'll work through running the wires. Full transparency, it is 0 degrees outside. I am freezing right now, so I'm going to be doing kind of some running in and out of the house just to stay warmed up. I do need a heater in my garage, but I'm not there yet. But anyway, we're going to start inside the vehicle with installing the mirror, and then we'll work on running the wires. The wires that we have to run are going to be our hardwire kit, and this is going to tie into the fuse box. It's going to be our rear camera extension wire here, and it's going to be our GPS. GPS is going to sit on dash. This is going to go to the rear of the vehicle, and this is going to go down to the passenger side footwell. So from a running wire standpoint, let's just poke our head in right here. So the mirror's here. All the wires are going to go towards the passenger side to get to my fuse box, and then I'm going to drop that GPS module probably on the dash right on the front side there, and then we can figure out how we get that camera cable out of the cab to the back of the truck so I could put that rear camera on the exterior side of the truck. All right, before we hop in the vehicle to actually install the mirror, we need to prepare the mirror to be installed. So what we're going to do is flip the guy over here, and what we're looking at is these 4 little rubber sections on the back of the mirror. I went ahead and removed one of them. It's just an adhesive little rubber pad, because if you do use this with the strap version where you just basically clip it on your factory mirror, those rubber pads are to hold everything in place. But we need to remove those because we need access to these screws, because what we're going to do is pull all those rubber mats off, pull the Phillips head screws out, and then we're going to drop this bracket right down into place. And once we drop that bracket in there, then it's going to allow us to attach the little arm here so that we could then replace our whole factory mirror instead of just using the strap version with these little hooks here. So let's go ahead and get this guy prepped. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll hop in the vehicle, get everything set up, and continue the install. All right, so our camera is ready to go. It's installed on the bracket. What's nice is when you go to remove those Phillips head screws, it allows you to pull those little hooks out so you don't need those anymore. So it gives it a very clean factory look because we're going to be using that bracket. One other thing to note, that bracket needs to be oriented the right way. So the rounded portion of the arm here needs to point to the top of the camera, just to make sure that this screw here, so this screw on the bottom of the bracket, can align with the factory hole. A couple things while we have the camera out of the car still. Just on top, you got a USB-C. This is for your power. You got a small AV jack and as well as a large jack. And the large jack here is for the GPS module. And then you got your SD card little slot here. So all the plugs are going to go into the top of the mirror. Once it's installed on the vehicle, you will barely be able to see that. The last thing that you have on the outside of the vehicle is a microphone on both sides here, as well as a button for power. Once we mess around with this for a few days, I will give you kind of a walkthrough in terms of how everything functions. But right now, all we're trying to do is get this guy installed in the vehicle. So let's hop in there, get the lighting up, and start removing our factory mirror. All right, so once you are inside your vehicle, go ahead and turn your mirror a little bit. We're going to undo that power harness on the back of the mirror. We're not going to need that plugged into the mirror anymore. What we'll end up doing is probably zip tie up that to the back of the WolfBox so it's up and out of the way. Then we're going to need a Torx T15 bit here because there is a Torx screw right here holding the mirror to the windshield. We're going to undo that, and then the whole bracket and mirror itself should pop carefully off. And then from there, we could take our WolfBox mirror, and it's going to mount right to that factory location, but not with a Torx bit. Now it's going to mount with a Phillips head. So let's go ahead and get that factory rear view mirror pulled off, and then get the WolfBox camera in there, and then we can continue on with running their wires. Well, while I got the mirrors out, figured it's a nice side-by-side to just kind of show you the size comparison. So this is the factory mirror over here, and this is the WolfBox mirror. You could see from a footprint standpoint, it is much larger. Obviously, it needs to give a home for that camera. But having a bigger rear view mirror is nice, especially when you got kids in the back seat. You'll be able to see both sides of the vehicle. So I generally have my kids in there, and the WolfBox mirror is going to give me additional visibility. But anyway, let's go ahead and throw this guy in there. You can see it's the rounded bit here. This is the factory bit. There's a screw that is already attached to the arm on the WolfBox one. All we need to do is just use a Phillips head to tighten that guy down, and then this mirror will be installed. We can start running the wires. All right, so the WolfBox camera is installed. Everything is very solid. I'm actually really impressed with how well this guy attached to the factory mount. Not a lot of times do aftermarket things fit just that well. But anyway, Phillips head screw, tighten everything down to the factory bracket. The mirror is installed. We're good to go. We don't need to adjust anything yet. It's almost better to have the mirror pulled down because we're going to be plugging some stuff in here. So now what we're going to do is go over to the passenger side, and that's where we're going to run all those wires, the GPS, the power, as well as the camera. So let's go ahead and hop in over there, get our lighting moved over, and I'll show you where the fuse box is for the power. I'll show you where I plan to mount the GPS little module because that's got to go pointing up somewhere, and then we'll start figuring out a route for that rear camera. All right, so now with our WolfBox camera installed on that side, we're going to start planning our wire route. So there are going to be 3 wires coming off of that mirror that need to come down this sill. One wire is going to be for the GPS module, so this little guy. This has to sit somewhere where it's going to face straight up. So a lot of people put it in the corner of their dash. I'm going to figure out kind of a discrete area to put this guy. We'll figure that one out as we go. Here's our hardwire power kit. So this has 3 prongs on the end. It's got a ground, it's got an accessory power lead, and it's got a 12-volt power lead and an accessory. This is what's going to give us that accessory as well as constant power to our camera. But again, this has got to run from the camera up over the windshield down into the fuse box down here. And then the third wire is going to be our rear camera, which has to plug into the top of the mirror, come up and around, drop down, and we're going to figure out a way somewhere on the bottom of the vehicle to drop the wire out so you can run it towards the rear. So what I'm going to do here is, first thing I did is I removed my floor mat, and then we're going to have to remove that little Ford Performance sill so we can remove the kick plate here, because behind this kick plate is the fuse box, and we're going to need to put some addifuses in there so we can get that power. There is a little panel right there, but it's just a heck of a lot easier just to pull everything off so you can get more room. And we might pull this off as well. I got a lot of cable here that I got to run. The more panels off, the easier. That way I can zip tie up everything, tuck it away so it's not going to rattle. So let's get these panels pulled off and start planning our route. Ultimately, what I might end up doing, I guess my current thought process is, let's plug everything in there, let's rough everything in, and then once I figure out the final home, I'm going to put some little sections of shrink wrap on the 3 wires that have to run across the windshield. That way when I tuck them up underneath here, they're all going to hold together. So I have 3 panels completely removed. The first thing I removed was the sill plate here. Then you got to remove this little top panel here. Once you do that, then you can pull the kick panel out. So now what I'm going to do over the next couple minutes here is try to figure out the best wire route to run the 3 wires from the mirror up across the top of the windshield and then down. This is going to take a lot of playing with, but that's why I removed all the panels here. It's going to give me the best possible access just to make sure everything's a nice clean install. And then our fuse box is right down here. Once I get to that point, I'll show you what fuse positions I'm using for my accessory and my 12 volt. But let's try to figure out this wire route now. All right, so quick stock take on where we're at. We got our camera installed. We got our wires run. They're just loosely hanging there. I'll be able to tuck them up underneath the roof. Haven't figured out the final resting place, but everything tucks up into the A-pillar, wraps around here, drops down this seam, and it's really easy to pull this weather seal off. Let's get some light there, and then you can see it pops into some fabric loom, and my GPS, which is that top wire, as well as the power wire, cut off. The power wire then runs this way underneath the dash down, and it drops down right here, so you can see our yellow, red, and then our black grounds there. Then the rear camera wire continues down the sill plate. It's going to drop into here, and I'll show you how to run that in a minute. But for now, our GPS wire just kind of tucks up around that little corner. I'm going to figure out the final place where I want it. I'm not going to stick it just yet, but ultimately the top portion of that GPS sensor needs to be facing up. That's pretty well spelled out in the instructions. But for now, we're going to leave it here, and I'll figure out what works best ultimately. But like I said, everything runs down here, GPS wire there, power wire here, power wire kind of drops down here. You can kind of fish it through, and the fuse box is down there. We'll get into that in a second. And then our camera wire just continues down. Underneath the carpet right here, there's a rubber grommet, and that rubber grommet allows me to poke through, and that's where we're going to run our rear camera wire through to get to the underside of the truck. Easy peasy. Now let's talk about power here. So here's a printout of the fuse box. The fuse box looks just like that, and it's down in that corner. Rather than try to shove a camera in there, we're going to use this printout here. So using a multimeter, I went through and kind of tested a couple different circuits. We're going to use fuse position 29, which is a 15 amp fuse, and that's for the 12-inch display as well as our adjustable pedals. That has constant power. That's going to be for our, let's see here. I believe it's our yellow wire here. Yep, that's going to be for our yellow wire. And then our red wire, which is our accessory, that's going to go into fuse position 36. Now, what's nice in that hardwire kit is they give you the added fuses already outfitted with a 15 amp fuse for the feature on the mirror. So all we need to do is pull that factory fuse out, plug it into this bottom portion, and then plug this wire right into the bullet connectors down there. So there's plenty of wire lead. I'm just going to zip tie up everything out of the way. I'm not even going to clip it, and then we'll pop this right into fuse position 29 and 36 respectively for the power and switch leads. Okay, so you can see my upper fuse and my lower fuse or added fuses for my power and accessory. Got those wires zip tied up into the bundle down here. Then I have my ground tucked up right there. The additional ground you see there is for my F-150 LED ambient light kit, but that's a perfect ground because it is accessible. Now the next thing we need to do is run the wire for our camera, which is going to go into a rubber grommet right underneath here. So if you pick up the carpet, there's a rubber grommet right about here. We're going to pull that out. We're going to run our wire through there, and then that will give us that exterior pop, so then we can run that wire through the rest of the truck. But let me clean up everything in here for now, as I got to get my kid to his friend's house now. Okay, so just tried to clean things up just a smidge. I got a little bit of wire still hanging out. I might wrap those in some more of that fabric loom, zip tie it, and call it a day with what's going on up there. But now we're going to run our rear camera cable, and like I said, what we're going to do is pull up the carpet, and we're looking for that seal right there. These things are super easy to pull off. Once you pull that off, then it drops right through. So what we're going to do is feed the rear camera cable through this opening. But first we're going to pop a small little hole here, feed the wire through here. That way we have a nice weatherproof seal. And then once we get everything in its final home, I'm going to hit this with a little bit of silicone just to make sure everything's 100% sealed. But if you are looking for ways to get wires from the inside of your cab to the outside, this is how you do it. So anyway, let's get that hole popped in here. Let's feed the wire through here, and then let's start routing that wire all along the bottom of the truck. This should be pretty straightforward. I already have power cables and everything running, and then we're going to run it to the back of the truck. I'm trying to avoid opening the garage. Like I said, it's really cold outside, so we're probably going to be working some close confines here until we absolutely need to, and then I'll pull the truck out and we can get a clean shot at the license plate bracket. But let's try it. So we got our wire run through that little grommet there, and then all the other excess wires pulled through the bottom of the truck. So now the fun part of the project begins, and I just hop underneath the truck and zip tie that up. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is pull that wire all the way to the rear, trying to get it near the license plate area. Should be plenty of routes. It's just kind of figuring out what's the best route to work with. But cold wire is never really fun to work with. But let me get all this stuff run, and I'll show you the final step in terms of installing that rear camera. And then we will fire up everything, and I'll show you how it all works. Okay, I was avoiding as much as I could to keep the garage open, but now it's time to install the rear camera, which needs my truck out of the garage partially. It is absolutely freezing, but here is where we're at. We have the wire run all the way to the back for the rear light, or for the rear camera. Here is that wire. So you have one plug that goes into the camera, and then you have a red cord here. This red wire is so you could tie into your reverse circuit, and it'll turn the camera on when your truck is in reverse. So I think what I might do is tap into the feed for my Diode Dynamics C1R, because there is a reverse signal in here, and that'll turn the camera on. But for now, it's freezing, so we're going to work on just installing the camera. I went ahead and already teed up everything, so it's on the bracket. All we need to do is pull the license plate off, slip this behind it, and then slap the license plate on. There's a gap here, so this should pop right in front of the license plate frame, or maybe I'll bend things just a little bit. Then we'll feed the wire back behind the bumper and then tie it up right there. And then I'll just coil up everything up underneath the bumper right in the corner. There's plenty of room over there, especially enough room to keep everything away from the hot exhaust. All right, so the camera is installed. That bracket slips right behind the license plate. And then what I did is I just took the wire and dropped it back there. You could also run the wire over the top. I just felt like it was a little bit more concealed there. So we're gonna make some final adjustments here. I'm gonna pull out that lens cover. And then we're going to go mess around, and I'm going to figure out how to use this thing. And then what we'll do is we'll close out this video walking through some of the features of the camera itself. I did not hook up the reverse wire. I'm trying to figure out the best way I want to do it on my truck, but it's not certainly anything that I need right away. It's a nice function, but I just don't need it for how I plan on using the WolfBox camera. All right, this thing took me all of about 15 seconds to figure out how to work, but this thing is awesome. I really like the added functionality of this camera versus what I've had in the past. But the coolest thing right now is, watch this. Show rear camera. Show front camera. That is dope. I don't have to hit any buttons, and I can see the front camera, I can see the rear button, and if I swipe here, I could do the same thing, but I could also get split screen as well. So just a couple of the features. If you touch the screen, it brings up all these options on the bottom. If I hit the gear is going to allow you to go into all the settings here. So you can go into display mode. What I have it on right now is split screen, but I do like to have it defaulted to rear camera. Volume setting, you could adjust the volume of this little clicking that you hear. What else we got here? So screen brightness, that's self-explanatory. Resolution, I don't know why you wouldn't want the top resolution, particularly at night when you want to be able to see license plates and everything. You want to go for that top resolution in frames per second. We scroll down here a bit, you could flip cameras. So if for whatever reason you needed to mount this one other way, you could flip the camera, the rear camera as well. You could also flip that. Reversing lines, you can have it as panoramic or you can have it as full display. That's assuming you have the reversing function plugged in. Right now I don't. Parking mode, this is because we ran the hardwire kit, we have powered nonstop. So I have it set on G trigger recording, meaning when the truck feels a movement, it's going to turn the cameras on and start recording. Let's see, GPS. This is telling you the strength of the GPS signal. I'm parked outside right now, so everything's working pretty good. GPS display, so on the screen you can have miles per hour as well as the direction that you're driving. I feel like it's a little redundant, so I turned that off. Let's see, time display, you can obviously set the time display on your screen so you can have the time back up there as well. Date stamps, time stamps, all that's pretty self-explanatory. Speed units, self-explanatory, miles per hour, kilometers per hour, depending on where you are located. Lots of functionality, but very easy to use this thing. It's super I'll say it's idiot proof. Now the other thing is you have an app. So there's a WolfBox app that you could download on your phone, and I have it connected so that you can pull footage from your camera onto your phone without having to ever undo the SD card. I know sometimes dealing with those small SD cards is kind of a pain in the butt, but it is pretty nice because you can connect via Wi-Fi to the two devices and pull that footage. You could also connect adjust brightness again here. You could flip between the cameras here, so there's a lot of options for flipping through the cameras. You could take a picture, and that's what you get when you click there. Whatever camera's up there is the camera that's going to take the picture on. You could lock the screen if you don't want to have any sort of involuntary changes to it. You can hit this little play button and you could see the footage that's being recorded. I would hit it, but you're going to start to hear me double talk and you're going to get a lot of feedback. And then obviously you could go into settings with that button, or you can mute the microphone so it's not recording sound, which might save you on SanDisk memory card savings, but I like to have the audio recorded as well. Anyway, this thing is super easy to use, very functional, and a lot of options use it. You don't have to install your rear camera where I install mine. I've seen people install it on the front, sides, on the top of their camper. You have a lot of flexibility. This thing is super dope. Anyway, that's how you install the WolfBox front and rear camera on a 2023 Raptor. The instructions are going to be identical for 2021, and I would bet 2025 and up as well, as these trucks are very similar, other than the fuse box, but just be mindful of the fuses. Use a multimeter to figure out which ones work for your application. You want a switch circuit, and then you want a full power circuit. But with that said, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to use my coupon code if you're planning on buying one of these guys as well. It'll give you a discount, but it also helps my channel. Appreciate it all. You guys have a wonderful day. Bye.